This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Panel, I would like to pose a question to Team Negative. At a point in time, when 80% of land is credible for food production, how is climate change a problem here? Now, literally, we are having a new vision. It clearly states that our land here in Uganda has the ability to provide food for 200 million people. So the question is, how does climate change become a problem? The thing is, we are having, as a country, we're not even facing very many issues of climate change here. The thing is, in Uganda, we are experiencing very good climate. We are having rainy seasons there and here. Now, they keep on only bending on one thing, that is the northern region. They keep talking about Karamoja there and Karamoja here. We're not looking at the larger scale of it all. And then the other thing is that they are running a case that is leading, actually, they're running a future case. They are not looking at the thing that is in present right now. What is happening right now? The thing is that we are facing a problem of subdivision whereby there is actually no food production because people are actually encroaching on land that is actually meant for food production. Now, we kept on telling them that they came here and they kept on saying that they are going to base on quality and the quantity of food. That is the same thing we are saying here, because by the point in time whereby we are able to actually rest your case, by the time we are able to actually provide for 70% of people food, that is actually, we are bringing about quality, we are bringing about quantity of food. We're not just going to just bring about nothing. We're going to provide food. We are going to provide the quality food, the quantity that they need. Now, the other thing is that they talk about coming about the acidic rains. They kept on saying that there's actually a climate problem, but we have kept on telling them that we are having good rains here. Actually, we are the only thing we are lacking in the whole thing is that people are actually just trying to divide land. This is leading to actually land fragmentation, whereby we are encroaching on what? We're encroaching on credit. We are encroaching on things like agriculture. Now, we kept on telling them that when we are encroaching on land, we are not going to be able to actually bring about the economy. Now, the fact that we are having small land, we're not going to be able to actually look at the whole part of Uganda. We're only going to produce food that is only to sustain me and my family. We're not going to be able to bring about the food that's going to sustain everyone. We're not going to be able to get money. At the end of the day, we are not actually looking at the brighter part of it all. We're only looking at me and my family. The other thing is that we're not able to utilize the resources because we are only looking at the small divisions of land we have. We're not going to use the machinery that would actually enable us to bring about the productive food, bring about the quality food that we need, because we're not going to be able to use the machinery, right? That means that we are only going to base on a smaller thing. We're not going to be able to produce the good food. The other thing is that we still talked about the reduced economies. I would still like to emphasize on that. The thing is that we as a country, we do not refuse the fact that we are having other factors that are bringing about the unsustainable food production and all that. But we are saying that the fronting thing here is actually the fact that we are having subdivision of land, whereby we are not going to be able to produce a larger amount of food that will be able to feed everyone in the country. And you remember, the thing is that here in Uganda, our backbone is actually agriculture. I do not understand how negative comes here and begins claiming about climate change, which is actually not a problem in Uganda. I rest my case.
Okay, so panel, as the third negative speaker, I'm going to begin with a question they asked us. They asked us that when 80% of land is credible, how does climate change become a problem? Now, we'd like to inform them that this 80% they're talking about, first of all, it's a statistic, meaning that it can change any time. They didn't even tell us where they made this survey, and I'm pretty sure that from the time they made that survey till now, the percentage of land has actually changed. We're showing you how climate change is actually affecting this. Now, panel, for a team to actually win this debate, the proposition had very many burdens, of which they literally proved none. They're supposed to prove that climate change is not the actual leading cause, panel. That they were unable to do. They're also supposed to outweigh the effects of climate change with those of land subdivision, something that they were also very much unable to do. They were supposed to prove that land subdivision is not caused by climate change. Panel, they also failed to do that. They were also supposed to prove that countries that have achieved sustainable food production have achieved it not because of not because of mitigating climate change. They're also supposed to prove to
PI.
us that before, no thank you, they're also supposed to prove to us that before climate change, the people who were there were unable to provide for themselves. Because as we see, before climate change came about, back in the day, people had a lot of land, but then again, there was a lot of unutilized land since people were only planting to actually feed. Since people are only planting to actually feed their families. So that you should come and tell us how those people actually, no thank you, how those people were actually able to maintain the sustainability of food production. Now, first of all, the negates has come and tell us about land encroachment. As the farmers come and tell us about land encroachment, and as the farmers, we come and tell them that this land encroachment is because of climate change. And in telling them this, I believe that in this debate they have no case. Why? Showing them that their land subdivision, their land encroachment is just another effect, another small effect of the actual root cause of climate change. I believe that will win this debate. How did we show them that this land encroachment is an second?
Do you realize that your entire teammates ran a case of what happens when climate change is at its worst and not what is happening right now?
And do you also believe that she gave us statistics from back then and not in status quo, as you so seem to say? Thank you. So, we also come and tell you about how we talked about climate change causing the land subdivision that they're talking about. In this case, they literally have no case. We are telling them that this climate change is the reason for their land subdivision. We are telling them that people actually move from the areas affected by climate change to squeeze into those areas that are actually better off. And in squeezing in those areas, that's why land subdivision happens. But now we are here to tell you that this land subdivision they're fronting is just another small effect. We are talking about climate change because it's the cause. It has very many effects, and these very many effects are actually what are causing the unsustainability of food production. But we also come and show you that the subdivided land that they're also talking about is at least still fertile enough to produce some crops. On our side, climate change, we're showing you the infertility of soils, as spoken about by my first speaker. That infertility of soils leads to not only decrease in the quality, but also decrease in the quantity. We're talking about our low yields. We're talking about non-nutrients in that food that they're talking about. Did I mention that they didn't even give us parameters? Did I also mention that they failed to characterize the food sustainability they're talking about? As our second speaker came and talked about, this climate change is the reason why we no longer have quality food. How do we no longer have quality food? You talked about the carbon dioxide that affects and removes the nutrients from these plants. You also came and talked about how the high temperatures remove the nutrients from these plants.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute.